that was exemplified by that move. And it was really nothing more than greed, because, when the Brooklyn Dodgers were moved, they were the most profitable franchise in baseball. Even though their park was smaller than, say, Yankee Stadium and some of the other parks, between their television deals and other revenue, they were the most profitable team in baseball. I think, we see the same sort of evidence in spiraling salaries at the upper echelons of corporations, people being squeezed out of pensions. There's a lot of ethical connections that you see up and down the line in terms of the kinds of changes which have affected people and families in ways that are not good for them and not good for the rest of us. We see some of the consequences. And it's the question is, to what extent could we reverse something like that? And to what extent can our heroes be made more meaningful to us as those heroes were then?
I'm one of those demon kids that grew up in Los Angeles. But my dad took me to some of the very early games of the Dodgers when they were played in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And I reflect on, there was a night in the Coliseum where 100,000 people gathered to honor Roy Campanella.
That's right.
I would be interested in a reflection that you might have on the person of Roy Campanella and his affiliation and association with Brooklyn and with the Dodgers and with the field.
I think Roy Campanella was just a remarkable man, and I have memories of watching him. He used to host a program between games of Yankee doubleheaders for a time in the early 1960s, and there was a tremendous goodness in him. As Jackie was fiery in one way, there was this, there was sort of a whole different sort of representation that you saw in Campanella, but yet Campanella's courage was no less than Jackie's in so many respects. And he won 3 most valuable player awards. I think I would be safe in saying that he was universally loved, and he also played in some tremendous pain. In 1954, he played for half the season with a broken hand, for God's sakes, and he was a catcher, and he was, you had a center field in New York in the 50s, of course, where you had Snyder and Mays and Mantle, and you had catchers like Campanella and Farrah. And people wonder why New Yorkers have this special thing for baseball.
On a lighter note, I've always wondered why they have the chutzpah to call it the World Series. It isn't.
That's right. That's right. We're a very unique country. We do have a rather exalted opinion of ourselves in so many ways, and if what happens here, as far as we're concerned, it's the world. So I think we'll see some. It'll be interesting to see if there's some. Obviously, Major League Baseball is trying to market in different places now. Witness the World Baseball Classic, which they had earlier in the spring, there was, there have been games now played in Monterrey, Mexico, and places like that. Whether or not we'll ever get beyond the U.S. and Canada will be interesting to see.
Growing up 90 miles south of Brooklyn, it was a sad commentary to realize that Campanella grew up in our town, and the Phillies would not take him, and he got hired by the Dodgers.
Right.
I want to ask you to speak a little bit about free agency and how that's added to the question that came up over there earlier about how the whole neighborhoods have this change and how a 5-year-old or 9-year-old today really can't stay with his favorite player because he doesn't know where that player's going to be next year.
Yeah. I think what's happening to us as a culture is that our kids are growing up a lot faster, aren't they? So I think they're realizing that the impact of business decisions certainly at a much earlier age than their parents did. I mean, and they see those things affecting their fathers, you know. They see daddy changing jobs. I mean, there's no cradle to grave affiliation in corporate America anymore either. So, yeah, I think it does have consequences for baseball in terms of the identity kids have with the game. I don't think that a child growing up today has the same identification with baseball, or could, that I had. Good gosh. I mean, World Series games were played during the day when I was a kid. If you watch playoff or World Series games now, you're going to bed 1:32 in the morning. You know, you can't really let your kid do that if you care about your kid's education. So they can't feel the same way, and you know, to your question. And free agency, well, you know, the players have rights. They do have rights, and hats off to Marvin Miller for essentially liberating them from the onus of the owners. Marvin Miller and Kurt Flood, for that matter. I guess, you know, they're aspiring to make as much money as they can, as quickly as they can.
I grew up in the beer capital and heavy industry capital